Okay, hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Outmarket.pro podcast. Today we're diving into the world of innovative payment solutions with ScanPay, a revolutionary merchant processing platform designed to streamline payments on the go. It has a user-friendly smartphone app and eliminates the need for hardware, terminals, or any of that stuff. It offers a seamless payment collection right at the job site. So joining us is entrepreneur, small business expert, and partner of ScanPay, Pete Crouse. He brings a wealth of experience in home services, franchising, and he's here with me today to discuss ScanPay's mission and its efforts to forge partnerships with the home service industry. So welcome, Pete. Glad to have you on the podcast.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me.
So let's start with a 30,000-foot view of what ScanPay is, how it works, and what it does.
That's great. So ScanPay was designed to address the need for collecting payments in the field at the job site. There's payment systems in place today for brick and mortar locations that we're all familiar with. There's also payment systems that are built for e-commerce, but there's still a significant gap in servicing and collecting payments in the field with consumers or companies today as well. And that's what we've tried to do, come up with something that is extremely simple and flexible and convenient, both for the tradesperson and for the consumer.
And, we see people, mainly I'm thinking about, and I know this is, well, there may be an application for it, but mainly we'll see people in restaurants, the waiters in restaurants, lugging this contraption around to the table. And we also see some contractors with that same thing. I'm gathering that eliminating that not only eliminates cost, but makes it so much more convenient because your app works from cell phone, Apple or Android, right? Go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so we know that the service professional has always got their phone with them because in a lot of cases, that's how they're being directed to their jobs through their field service management system or dealing with consumers. So they're always got their phone. But what we had come to learn is the terminal at times doesn't get charged before the start of the day. The terminal gets lost or broken. In some cases, the hardware that's on that particular phone gets broken as well. So we wanted to make it real simple that it's just an app that's downloaded on the phone. And downloaded on the phone, and we're able to collect payments in the field using that phone. So it can be either tap to pay credit cards, or if the person doesn't have a tap to pay card, the actual device will create a QR code, and the consumer can then use their phone and scan that QR code and pay any way they want to pay, which could be Google Pay, Apple Pay from their wallet. They could decide if their credit card's on their phone, or they could do an ACH transfer as well. So we made it, again, simple for the tradesperson to collect the payment and made it easy for the consumer to pick the type of payment way they want to cover.
If this is a B2B transaction, we've got a plumber going to a restaurant. So we don't have somebody with a credit card typically in that situation. How does the ScanPay process adapt to that situation?
Great question. So what we've seen in the past is some of these folks will show up and have to call back to home office and have somebody take this credit card manually over the phone, which just increases risk and fraud and costs. So what the actual service person can do is create the invoice on the phone. We do create an invoicing functionality, and using a digital link, either text the person the link, email the person, WhatsApp, send that link over to the person, and then they can pay from their phone or from their desktop.
That's awesome. And in working with this, and full disclosure, I helped do some lead generation several months ago. So I became familiar with the program and how it works, and was impressed, which is why you're here today. You've got some other features beyond just the simplicity of being able to collect payments by phone. Talk about some of those other features of the program.
Yeah, so as I just mentioned, invoicing is free. It's we don't charge any membership fees, any subscription fees to this. It's pay as you go, and that's the rate that we charge when taking payment. So we have a free invoicing functionality built in. The person can literally build a customized invoice using their logo, their business address, any of their social media sites as well. It's actually got a catalog in the app too, so they can start to catalog the services or products that they're selling to the consumer. And it's nice that those will repeat the next time they use the app again if they're going to use the same products. They can go through now and create an invoice, and then, as I said, send that invoice. So that's one great option at no extra cost. The other thing that's really been enjoyed by the business owners is the ability to manage a group of teams. So the business owner or the general manager of the business will download the app initially, get approved, and then they'll send out links from their app to their team members. And those people will be able to then get the app on their phone and start to collect payments on behalf of that owner. What's great is all the money collected in the field will go back to the owner or the general manager of the business. And then what's also nice about the team management of the app is you can manage permissions. So you may decide, hey, Mark's my new service technician. He's just joined us. I'm not feeling confident yet that I want Mark to be issuing refunds in the field. So I'm going to actually turn that off for him. He won't be able to do it. He would have to call back to the home office to issue that particular refund. So there's lots of ways that you can customize both how you collect the payments, service fees, and taxes, and the catalog, and also how you manage your teams in the field. The other thing we run into is there'll be a business owner that may run a door business and a locksmith business, and there's two different businesses. And the app, again, can separate those two businesses, and he can jump back and forth between them. So whether it's two businesses or multiple locations for a franchisee, they have that ability to move around the app and keep each of those businesses separate from each other.
Okay. So in setting up, let's say not the invoicing, but the field processing, sounds like you've got a drop down. When they bring up the phone, you got a drop down and you bring up this service, and this service from a pick list, and that will generate and probably a fee structure that's already pre-loaded in there.
That's
So
correct. That's
the,
correct.
the text,
The other thing we're finding too, which is it allows the opportunity for the business owner to decide whether they want to pass on the service fee. So the service fee would be the credit card processing fee. And what we're seeing today is some people will either say, no, I'll incur that fee in my business, or I'll cover some form of it the consumer will need to pay, or all of it. It's full disclosure, so the consumer will see the invoice before they pay it, but they'll see that they are also paying that service fee. And that's another feature that the owner can decide whether they want to enable that or not.
mhm. I can see where it would be really helpful for some basic services. Let's just say HVAC for a moment. HVAC's got a regular service call, that biannual service call, and it always costs the same thing. I mean, they may have an add-on for a part or something, but usually it's the same thing, $100 or something like that. So they could have that preloaded with the price, and the rep just brings that up and really simplifies the whole invoicing process.
Absolutely. That's what we've always tried to do in this process, is to keep it extremely simple. Technician collects his payment on his way to his next job. And again, for the consumer side, they can make that choice. The other feature that we've built into the app right now is a buy now, pay later feature. We're using a company called Klarna. It has a limit on that, but the consumer would get approved for Klarna, and they could decide, I'm going to make series of equal payments over the next time period based on the Klarna agreement. But the nice thing is the merchant gets his or her money up front when they deal with the consumer on that. But it's just one more feature we're seeing in the marketplace where people want to do this buy now, pay later, pay over time approach.
Hmm. Man, that sounds risky from the vendor's point of view, to pay up front and then assume they're going to be able to collect it. But A good feature anyway,
It
nonetheless.
is. It is.
When you're talking to prospects, let's go back to HVAC, or any of the trades. What is typical that you encounter of the ways that people are currently doing this and accomplishing this? Is it a
Yeah.
terminal? What is it?
Most of the people, interesting enough, we've been to quite a few contractor trade shows this year. And the first question we always ask, how are you currently collecting payments today? We get a lot of people saying, I still collect a lot of cash and checks. And that's fine, but the consumer no longer wants to pay with a check or cash. They want to get in the digital world. And so these folks are feeling the pressure of offering something. So one of their options is they could use QuickBooks as a way to send out a digital invoice. Not as convenient in the field. Square is a competitor of ours. Again, that's an option. Clover would have a terminal, or some other banks may have some terminals as well. But interesting enough, as I said earlier, where this starts to fall apart is suddenly the device has hardware on it and it doesn't work, or it's broken, or it's lost. The terminal isn't charged, doesn't work, or it's lost as well. And then suddenly the technician is writing credit card numbers down on pieces of paper and processing them later. High risk of fraud, high risk there for the consumer, and extra charges for card not present. So this is what we're hearing from people, that this makes it so much easier. It works on Apple, it works on Android. So, any smartphone will work in the field to quickly download. There's a little bit of approvals that the business needs to go through, usually in the first 24 to 48 hours, like any bank situation. But once they're approved, they're good to go to start collecting payments.
Hmm. And if the option is to invoice the client later, then they're just getting in line for whenever that person decides to pay that bill. And if it's sent by text message or email, it'll go to the bottom of the list and can very easily be ignored. So I
Yeah.
see the benefits of getting that payment right there on the spot.
But there are people who would prefer to be invoiced, and that's okay too. It has that real simple ability to, again, text or email or any other of the social apps where we can send that link to them for payment.
But that link and that invoice can be sent there on the spot or created there on the spot so that you're actually getting payment right then.
Yeah, exactly. And you and I have chatted before about your experience with suddenly the technician saying, I got to call back to the home office, talk to somebody there, and it's just not a really good process for that. So we like to eliminate that.
And calling in that credit card number.
Yeah.
Um, mm,
Nobody feels comfortable doing that anymore.
right. Yeah. During the time that you and I worked together, I think I had about 4 or 5 providers, home service providers. We had just moved into our house, um, and new stuff happening all the time. And it was a hodgepodge, but nobody had anything on their phone. Actually, nobody even had the
Terminal.
handheld
Yeah.
device. And those remind me of the first cell phones. You and I are probably old enough to remember those first bricks. I actually kept one of my first ones. No, my first one was a car phone in a cigar box uh, shaped size
Yeah.
contraption.
It's funny, right? When you're in the restaurant, everybody says, "Do you need the machine?" Like it's gotten that name, right? Bring the machine,
Uh,
the terminal over to the consumer. So yeah, it's real convenient, real flexible.
um, what are some of the other perks, some of the pain points that you hear about when you're at the conferences? Just let's give it a little more depth underneath this, whether it be pain or benefits.
One thing in most cases we'll hear from people, we'll start to say, what is the current rate you're paying? And they'll come up with a number, and we'll say, are you sure that that's really what you're paying? Because what we have in a lot of our competitors is a blended rate. And depending on what they're processing that month, could be debit, lower, American Express card, everything in between. So we don't have different rates for different cards. It's one flat rate we deal with. Again, the other thing we'll hear is, well, I actually get charged when they send me invoices every month, or some of these other side charges as well, or I have to have a subscription fee. It's the first thing people always ask us. So come on, what's the hook here? Like, what do we have to process a certain amount of dollars? And we've said no. The intent of the founder all along was, we all know the big companies probably get the best rates, and the small and medium businesses are making up the difference. And he really wanted to provide something for that small and medium business owner who obviously is struggling, wants to be able to make as much money as they can. So let's keep this at one flat rate. You don't need to sign up for a certain time period. You don't need to pay a recurring fee. The other thing we hear is, well, I also have a field service management system that I use to manage my day, or manage my team, or I work with a call center who puts my jobs into that particular FSM as well. And we're prepared to integrate with that. So our team is willing to come in to, again, if the job is ultimately getting dispatched in an FSM to the technician, we can make that integrate right with ScanPay, and therefore it's just, one click resolves or reconciles this whole thing in the FSM and all the way back to accounting as well. So that's what we've done with one of our partner companies right now.
Wow. And are you charging a fee for that integration?
We are not charging a fee for that either.
Oh. And
Yeah.
that's a significant amount of development time to do that sort of thing.
It is, and but again, it's just trying to simplify it and reconcile all the money. It's so important in this business, as far as at the end of the day, touching businesses' money is just sacred, and we got to make sure that we're doing it in a safe and responsible way, and we're making sure at the end of the month or the end of the week, bookkeeping, payroll, everything needs to jive. Anytime that starts to get out of sync, that just takes time, energy, and it really puts a little bit of fear in people as to what's really going on here. So we take the utmost care in making sure we're taking care of people's money, and making sure, again, everything ties out between what that invoice was, what that quote was, what that estimate was, and ultimately what we collected in the field.
Um, this industry, the credit card processing industry, has such a black eye because I think mainly because of fees and the opaqueness of the fee process. And everybody that's in the process, and it seems like an inordinate number of players, you got to have one to pass it to another and they all get in line to get that cut of the fees or additional fees. And it sounds like you're avoiding that it's a flat fee. And if you want to share that, fine. If you don't want to share it in a public forum, because these things can change. We're here in May of 2024, just in case, to give people a reference point. But what do you guys do to give that transparency? Is it one rate, no other fees, or are you disclosing what those other fees are? Some are unavoidable because it's the bank having some fees.
Yeah.
How do you offer transparency about that?
As we said, when we meet with people, we explain to them what the flat rate fee will be with no other costs or charges. So in some cases where we've had to have a conversation with somebody who may say, well, we've got a big opportunity here, we may want to have a different conversation in the partnership of what that could be. But right now, it has been one flat rate communicated to everyone, which is
Wow.
2.5% as of today. But as you say, could change over time.
Say that again. I think I stepped on with a wow.
It's a 2.5% flat rate right now,
Wow.
regardless of the card used. Yeah.
There's that wow again.
The other thing that's interesting, Mark, is so part of this is to try and get in front of many of the on-the-go mobile tradespeople today, whether it's a plumber, electrician, general contractor, a locksmith. Part of the work that I'm also doing is in the spirit of partnerships. And to give you an example of that, I've worked with several wholesale distributors who've been willing to do the marketing on our behalf through email blasts or through web banner advertising. And in exchange for that, if someone decides to sign up who's in their client base, we will provide some sort of incentive back, which for the wholesaler, whether it's usually a store credit, a gift card of some sort. So, it's good for them to be able to promote some savings and value and a solution out to their member base. And we want to thank them for that referral, particularly if that merchant decides to sign up with us and give something back as well. So I'm working on a lot of those types of partnerships where someone already has the relationship with the merchant or the tradesperson, and we'd love to work with people in that vein as well.
And 2.5 is at least a point less than people are used to paying. So I could see how a middle person, distributor might want to do that as a value add for their clients to give them this type of convenience.
Yeah.
Let's personalize this a little bit. Talk to me about the founder or founders of this, where they came up with the idea, what was motivating them initially. Are they engineers? Are they merchant service people? How did it start? And then I'll ask you a little bit about how you came to work with them.
Yeah, the founder was originally in the banking industry, and I think he saw from afar the same thing I spoke about earlier. All the big retailers, all the big companies were getting the best rates, and to make up the difference, the small medium business operator was paying the difference in the fees in order to make it all work out with the bank. So that's what inspired him to say, hey, I want to offer something of value, keep it simple, keep it convenient, offer some features here, but I'll offer that value proposition for people who again are working on some thinner margins than the big companies would be, to be able to put back into their business. So that's where the genesis of ScamPay came from. And then as you asked me, interesting enough, I've been in the home services segment for a while now. I'm with a franchise system called Popalock, and we were looking for ways to provide value to our franchisees. And again, I think that's what a franchisor would want to do. Find things that will make their life easier and save them some money. And in this particular case, Popalock was interested in exploring the opportunity to use ScamPay in the field. It's a perfect fit for us with our technicians in the field every day collecting payments from our consumers. And Popalock had a proprietary dispatch system, they call it Pulsar, and they too were looking for that integration opportunity to bring everything together. And so we launched that over a year ago now, and have had great success with using ScamPay. Not everybody's using it in the system yet. It's one of those, other people are asking, hey, what's the benefits of it? And so we're slowly getting it out there. And I think that was a proof of concept for the founder too, to say this can work really well in franchise systems. So I've had numerous conversations with other franchises in the home service thing, both at the franchisor level and at the franchisee level, to see if there might be a desire to adopt ScamPay in the business. So that's my big, belief, is that we do everything we can to try and help small business owners, whether again it's their time or to try and save them some money where we can.
Yeah, I could see the franchisor level being the perfect entry point, because well, in most cases, they're trusted by the franchisees, sometimes not. But that seems like the ideal point of contact. Is that your most successful point of contact? And now so many companies are franchised. I mean, it's huge. Is that a prevalent point of contact for you?
It has been a pursuit. We actually joined the International Franchise Association this year, with an intent, obviously, to be seen as a credible service within their industry. The challenge of this particular industry and franchising is the franchisor certainly wants to have a conversation about your capabilities and the integration that may be required in their existing systems. But this is usually a decision that's left at a franchisee level in a local market. Like there will be things that the franchisor will suggest, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. But this particular one is generally a franchisee will be at a local BNI or a networking group, and they'll usually meet somebody that's in the merchant processing segment, and that's how they will begin their relationships and as an entrepreneur, and will make that decision locally. So it really is about a bottom up and a top down approach as it relates to franchising. So that makes it a little bit more of a challenge. But we've been attending events, and we're about to do a webinar with the IFA coming up in July as well with the member community. So we're trying. I think the combination of a membership model like that with a big industry like franchising, the trade shows, and we've been to quite a few trade shows this year across multiple sectors in home services. It's just good to be out again, right? After the pandemic, to get out and meet people face to face, have that opportunity to do a demo on site, show them the app. That's when the light really goes on, because people don't 100% get like, what exactly are you pitching me? Oh, I see. And we literally walk them through how to build an invoice very simply, and they go, oh my God, that's all it takes. I love it. So trade shows have been very successful. And then we have a variety of different communities that we're in where people are having a good experience, and they tend to refer us to other people that those people know in their same community. So that's how we've been trying to go do our go-to-market.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, and I bet it's in every room that you're presenting in, and that is the reputation of the credit card processing industry, the lack of transparency. The most people have had a horrible experience. Most retailers have had a horrible experience. There's also a lot of pain or perceived pain associated with switching credit card processing providers. Um, let's talk turkey about those resistance levels and how you commonly are able to overcome those when you are able to. Did I sum up the built-in resistance adequately?
You did. This is one of those ones where even at a trade show, people are like, I get it. And then the follow-up can be painful because they're back on the road again. They're doing their business. Not that there is a ton of work required to make the change, but there's work to be done there, right? Not only do they need to cancel their existing service if they have one, but they do have to get some approvals done, get the app, have a demo, and go through that process. So just getting people's mind time alone and some focus, especially with entrepreneurs and people that are in the business every day, challenge number one for sure. To your second point, it's like, yeah, there's a 10 basis points difference between what I'm paying now versus what I could pay with you. Is it a big enough one for all the work I got to do to make the change? And so that's the other dilemma for sure. The real decision to make a shift to something else for what would be a relatively small win, maybe. So challenge number two for sure. But this is where we start to have that discussion of what are you really paying, and what are all the other fees going on that you're not even realizing, again, that exist. The industry will typically, in fairness, say to someone, give us 3 months of your statements. Let us dig into those statements. And if you truly are paying less than what we're offering, then you're good to go. We're okay to do that. But in a lot of cases, we'll usually start to be able to figure out what's been happening and bring that forward to the owner. So we offer that service, to make sure that it's good for everybody involved as well. And then I think the final thing, but it was the one thing that was really explained to me when I started to work with these guys, is the importance of trust and credibility. And I said this earlier, you're dealing with people's money. It's one thing if we were, ordering uniforms or had to order a vehicle or some tools or equipment. That's one level of trust you need to have with who you're dealing with. But at the end of the day, this is people's money, and they just need to feel really comfortable, not only in the technology, the security in that technology and the risk associated with disputes and everything that can go on with the consumer, but the people they're dealing with as well. And it takes time to build some trust with people. when you're the new guy on the block. And that too, I think, has been part of a barrier that you need to get over in the relationship. And so what we try and do, everybody we meet, we make sure there's a follow-up with a demo. We walk people through the demo, make them feel comfortable with the product and the experience, and then help them through that approval process with the banks, which they need to go through. And then when they get their first dispute, we help them with that too. So there's a really nice dashboard in the background where if a consumer is disputing something for whatever reason, we help them obviously try and win that dispute if everything went the way it was supposed to go. And we've got a customer service team that's on point to help them through that as well.
You know, another not objection, but barrier is that a lot of people are under contract to their provider for a certain period of time, and that's how they get locked in, and they've got a exit penalty if they want to get out of it, which can often offset exactly what you're saving them or close to it.
Exactly. And what we've always said to people is just download the app, use it from time to time. Again, there's no requirements or thresholds you need to have. And maybe you can merge into our business over time. So it's always nice to have a backup. If need be, try it, get a feel for it. And that's what we've usually said to people. We've got people that are using both at times, different options. But that's our entry point in to say, download it, give it a try, see if you like it. If you don't, remove it from your phone.
Mm-hmm. You know, another point towards the ignorance of people, and I'm not meaning stupid, but just not knowing, is not only the lack of transparency of the fees, but most people, well, the way it usually works is that the credit card company gives you what's left over, that they take their fees, then they give it to you. And even like with me in QuickBooks, I don't go back and look to see, okay, here my invoice was for $1,000. How much did I actually get of that? My bookkeeping team sees it. It doesn't register with them. So it's opaque on the front end. And because we're all busy, it's opaque on the back end too. We don't know we don't see what we're paying unless you're really astute. And then you probably don't have enough business if you've got that kind of time.
Well, it's certainly a line item in the business. And what I hear people at times say is, I don't offer credit card as an option for payment. So right away, it's like, well, why don't you? Because I don't want to deal with the fees. But your consumer may want to pay by credit card. So you've alienated a consumer or an option that they would like to pay by. So that is a choice of the owner, ultimately at the end of the day. And so that's why we've tried to say, any way you want to pay, whether it's Cash App, Google Wallet, pay from your bank account, ACH transfer, we want to provide as much flexibility as possible and to have that one flat rate that is being charged regardless of the payment type.
Mm-hmm. What haven't we talked about? We've covered a pretty broad spectrum. What haven't we covered?
Yeah, we've talked about, sort of the day in the life. We've talked about the opportunity for partnerships, team management, which we talked about for the business owner, and managing field teams and invoicing. We've got some more features coming up that are in the pipeline soon. Yet to be shared, but we're always looking at other features that ultimately we get feedback from our tradespeople on. Could you add this? Could you do that? So we're addressing that constantly. We're a pretty lean organization when it comes to that, so we can turn pretty quick and be nimble. But we are open to having a conversation with anybody. We're dealing with an interesting not-for-profit opportunity right now that kind of came at us to collect their membership fees using ScamPay. We've had people who would have networking groups that would like to use the app to collect fees for each of their membership fees when they show up. We can create customized QR codes for them as well. So we have lots of flexibility right now for anybody who may throw something at us that could be a unique opportunity to again make life simple for their ability to collect payments in the field.
Yeah, that brings up a use case of organizations that charge for networking organizations or human resource organizations that have a monthly lunch and people are paying at the scene. Usually they would have a device, so that this could be a good application for them as well, especially with the fees. But boy, it's difficult. You've got to work through, I'm saying human resource. You've got to go through SHRM National or start at the bottom with SHRM in Poughkeepsie and uh, and then try to get it to spread that way. But that sort of thing is so common,
Yeah.
um, and probably a good ticket size to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. People ask us too about ticket size. The app has the ability to take a pretty big size payment. We could be in a situation where a roofing organization may say to us, well, this is going to cost $50,000 to the consumer. Probably don't want to put it on their credit card, but they might want to put the deposit $10,000 on their credit card, find other ways to pay the balance. There may be something that comes up on the job site where a particular part needed to get ordered, and they can do that right on the site as well. So again, it doesn't have to be the end all be all, the only way to collect the payment, but it does provide the ability to collect it depending on what the situation may be.
Mhm. Well, and you're invoicing them there on the spot. They may not, you may not insist that they pay the whole thing or pay any of it, but you're giving them the invoice, a
That's
link
right.
to the invoice.
That's right.
Um, it's always been a compelling story to me from the time that it was introduced to me. Um, So how can people get in touch? How can they get a demo? I would imagine you have a video demo where you can show them just how it works in the field. What's the best way if somebody in our audience is interested in pursuing it or discussing their particular application with you, what's the best way to reach you and any other entity that they would need to communicate with?
So we've got a website called goscanpay.com. Probably the easiest way to at least start their learning journey there. My email is pete@goscanpay.com. If they want to reach out to me personally as well. There's a variety of YouTube videos that exist out there today if they want to do a little search, and they're really good at really kind of giving you the essence of in 60 seconds, what's that experience like, whether it's tap to pay and the simplicity of it, or even the QR code that gets generated. And again, the ability for the consumer to use their phone. The whole thing is, the consumer doesn't have to touch anything. They've got their phone in their hand the whole time, directing ship here and how they pay. So website, my email address is probably a great way to start, or do some local search around the word ScanPay, and they should be able to find us.
Another application that just popped into my mind is therapists that are not paid by insurance. They charge out of pocket for the clients, and they're not going to the clients, but the clients are going to them, and they're a single service provider. So that could be an excellent option, rather because, and one thing we didn't talk about is the charges that credit card processors or the companies charge for these handheld devices. They're probably leasing some of them. They're probably selling some of them. Um, what's that typically cost people?
Yeah, those fees can range to, a small hardware device can be $10 or $20 a month. That, to your point, adds up over time. A terminal with a SIM card in it may be leased over a period of 2 to 3 years, and they try and manage that cost in the thousands of dollars as well. Those are those things that when we have the conversation with people and we say, so what are you paying today? Well, I'm paying this, but how many terminals do you have? What's your monthly cost on those terminals? Again, what's the invoicing? What's the hardware expense? What's the replacement cost and all this type of stuff? That's the things that they're not taking into consideration when they look at the big picture of the total all-in investment for both hardware related to merchant processing.
And they're probably paying an insurance fee either to the processor or to somebody else, an independent insurer, to insure those things. because they're bouncing around in the truck and getting lost and stomped and everything else.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Well, this has really been valuable. I think I'm convinced it's a great service and product, and I wish you all the success with it. And let's see if we can bring some people in our audience that have different applications. I'm sure that when you're out at trade shows, even with a particular industry, that you're always getting, oh yeah, could that work with this? And I'm sure that range of applications just keeps growing. So
Love to hear from anybody for sure.
great. All right. Well, thanks for this. And let me just wrap up here. So be sure that and we'll put that contact information down in the show notes below. You can go to ScanPay's website. It was goscanpay.com. Is that right?
Correct.
And then we've got Pete's information that'll be down in the show notes. You can learn more about us at www.outmarket.pro, marketing solutions for almost any marketing challenge, and small business services as well. If you like the episode, please click the like button, thumbs up, subscribe. Don't forget the notification bell to stay tuned and notified for other episodes. So Pete, thanks again for joining us. Best of luck in your efforts, and we'll let's plan to schedule one in the future to keep updated on your progress.
I appreciate all the help here, and thanks again, Mark.
All righty.